June 13, 1880, Reading Eagle, Reading, Pennsylvania. The speed of ghosts. Some scientific reflections on the rate of travel of disembodied spirits. A very large proportion of ghost stories, when they come to be carefully examined, prove to have no more basis in truth than has an average Tribune political table. There is, however, one variety of ghost story which claims respectful attention. It usually runs as follows. A person sitting alone in his room suddenly sees the apparition of an absent friend. He notes the precise time and, a few days later, learns that the absent friend died at that exact hour and minute. Incidents of this kind have happened to so many persons of such unimpeachable veracity that it is very difficult to doubt them. They have happened too often to be explained as singular coincidences. And unless we boldly assume that in all cases the person thus visited by the alleged ghosts were either deceived or deceivers, we must admit that this particular type of ghost story is worthy of belief. There is one remarkable feature in all of this apparition of ghosts who are understood to come straight from the deathbed of their bodies to visit their distant and surviving friends. They apparently make no allowance for differences of longitude. A ghost, for example, appears to a person in New York at, say, 9 o'clock on the night of the 10th of June, and the person subsequently learns that the ghost in question left its body in London at 9 o'clock on the same night. Now, in point of fact, when it is 9 o'clock p.m. in London, it is about 4 o'clock p.m. in New York. And when it is 9 o'clock p.m. in New York, it is about 2 o'clock a.m. in London. It is hence evident that when the ghost of a person who died in London at 9 o'clock in the evening by London time presents himself here at 9 o'clock by New York time, that ghost has apparently been about 5 hours in crossing the Atlantic. If he had made the journey at the electric rate of speed at which ghosts are popularly believed to travel, he would have arrived here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon by our time. As he did not, it is clear that his rate of travel is precisely that of the Earth's revolution on its axis. In other words, the ghost has not traveled at all, but has simply poised himself in the London atmosphere and waited until New York came around. This is a fact the importance of which cannot be overestimated by students of ghosts and their habits. A careful examination of all the authenticated ghost stories of the peculiar type now under discussion will show that in every instance the ghost came from the East. Persons in England have seen the ghosts of friends who died in India or China, and persons living in America have seen the ghosts of persons who died on the Atlantic Ocean or in Europe. In no instance has a ghost arrived in London in hot haste from the United States, or has a New York man been visited by the ghost of a Chicago friend. It seems to be the invariable rule that a new ghost never travels in an easterly direction. the ghost may have to lay a course to the northwest or southwest, but no matter how much northing or southing he makes, he always appears at a point west of that from which he started. We are now in a position to combine what we know of the direction and rate of speed of ghosts, and to deduce the important law that ghosts have the power of moving in a northerly or southerly direction, but that, while they have an apparent motion from east to west coincident with the apparent motion of the sun, they cannot, by any motion of their own, change their longitude. The new-made London ghost, if he desires to visit a New York friend, follows the meridian of London in the direction of the equator at a speed so great as to be inappreciable, and, having reached the latitude of New York, poises himself in the air, and, when the revolution of the earth brings New York under his feet, quietly drops into his friend's room. We have here the first well-established ghost law that has ever been formulated, and we have a firm basis of facts for its support in the shape of the only authenticated class of ghost stories. We may go even further and deduce the hardly less important law that the period during which the new ghost can thus hover near the earth is less than 24 hours. If the London ghost could remain as long as he chose watching the earth revolve and selecting his own time for dropping in on his friends, there would be an end of the interesting appearances of ghosts at the precise time of their escape from their bodies. The ghost that appears to announce his escape from the body is never behind time, but always appears at the precise time, by the watch, at which the melancholy event took place. We are thus compelled to believe that, while the ghost can remain near the earth during 24 hours and can use that time in making farewell calls, he is compelled to remove to some distant sphere between which and the earth there is no regular and easy communication. These facts are submitted as the beginnings of a true science of ghosts, and it is to be hoped that they will be followed by the discovery of other and equally important laws, the knowledge of which will enable us to separate with certainty the truth from the false in ghost lore. November 28, 1898. The day, New London, Connecticut. Driven insane by a ghost. Prisoners in New Jersey jail are haunted by spiritual visitors. William Curtis was in Trenton, New Jersey jail, serving a 4-year sentence for larceny. Several weeks ago, he complained to the keepers that his nights were made intolerable by mysterious noises in his cell. His fears were laughed at. George Zupak, the occupant of a neighboring cell, also announced, with chattering teeth, that he had seen a ghost. He was in jail for shooting a man, and the ghost, he said, was that of his victim. It was Zupak's turn to be ridiculed. He and Curtis became a standing joke among the members of the prison staff, and the corridor in which their cells were situated was nicknamed the Haunted Corridor. But the prisoners to whom the matter was no joke at all, grew haggard and dwindled in flesh. Both men are now insane from their fears.